So last week I said that I was losing the passion for learning Tableau. And the context I gave for that is that I've been learning for Tableau for quite some time. And it's really a coincidence that today of all the days, the viz of the day is by Waqar Ahmed Shaikh. I think I've said that correctly. Apologies if I haven't. But his viz of the day is about his journey about learning Tableau. And there's pure coincidence. I didn't know this was going to be visit of the day, and it's going to be something I'll come back to later in this video, because I think it's actually quite a good visual way of explaining what I'm about to explain. Now, I think to really break this down, I have to break it down into, I said, three components. First of all, learning, passion for learning, and then specifically passion for learning Tableau, and why I've reached the point where I think I'm pretty confident that I'm able to say that in a compelling way, but also puts me in that dilemma because my job is to learn Tableau to teach you. So we'll come to that towards the end. But nonetheless, the thing I wanted to really touch on with learning and my relationship with learning is that I've been very fortunate over the years to have been able to learn tools and technology right at the cusp of them becoming prominent tools. The very first experience I have of this is learning HTML and JavaScript and CSS when the web was something that was taking off. I remember vividly in secondary school, a friend of mine called Chris Pateman pulled me aside and he said, "Hey, look, you're into your gaming. Do you know that games are developed using code?" And I didn't quite believe him. I thought games were something sort of more complex, graphics in 3D, but I didn't ever really think about how those games were developed. And he sat me down and he pulled out a pen and notebook and he said, "I'm not going to show you how to code a game, but I will show you how to create a web page that could have a game in it." So he's basically showing me the construct of the page, and he literally wrote down the HTML to create a simple page that said "Hello World." So a header, a body tag, script for any JavaScript and whatever at the beginning, and then he closed it off, and then he introduced me to this concept called CSS. Now I really didn't think much of it, but literally 2 months later, it was like he planted something in my brain, and I just went down this rabbit hole and I kept on digging and digging and digging. Fast forward 2 years later, I've learned enough HTML and CSS to be able to have built a website. So one of the first websites I built was for a shipping company called Calvi Marine. And if I just go and find them, they're a shipping company based in the UK. And the great thing about this project is I found a friend of mine whose mum was a logo designer. It's called Max. And his mum designed the logo that they still use today. So this logo up here was actually designed by my friend Max. I didn't design this website. We designed the website using a CMS system called Joomla. And the funny thing about learning and the funny thing about these things is they always take you down rabbit holes. And this is what I find exciting about learning. So you start with a topic, HTML, CSS. Then you get a project to go build a website. So you build a website. Now you've done the website. But then to build a website in a way where a non-developer can use it, you need a CMS system. So then I learned about CMS systems. And I went to Joomla, I went to Drupal. Then WordPress was just kicking around as a potential system. And I even went all the way down into this rabbit hole of hosting. So I even started a web hosting company back then. I did it all. So I still run a hosting company today. I just host my own websites on it. But nonetheless, Joomla's been running for 20 years. And for most of those 20 years, I've actually been able to learn and keep up with HTML and CSS. I never stuck with it long enough to become a web developer, but it was always something I was passionate and interested in. That was one of the first early experiences where I rode a wave for close to 7 years until I got to university, and then I went down the design route. And it was really interesting because when I finished university, I then stumbled into data. And you can see this because this is when I discovered the concept of quantified self. If I go to my own profile, let's open this in a new page. We'll come back to that page. If I go to my own profile, you'll notice a lot of my visualizations are about Tableau. and they're about myself, personal information that I've garnered from apps, fitness apps, and so on and so forth. So, for example, this visualization, I have an app that's sat on my phone for the best part of 15 years, not always the same app, but a range of apps that collect your location data on a frequent enough basis. This one I use Moves. I now currently use an app called Arc. But I use that as a really good way of learning how to work with data. And again, Tableau was something I stumbled into at university. A friend of mine at the time called Craig, I met him through university work, ended up joining him at the Information Lab. You might know of them. I joined Information Lab as I think the 11th employee. And that was how I stumbled into the world of Tableau. And in that journey, I was learning about data. I was never really learning Tableau. I was learning about data. But here's a big but. Tableau became a tool that allowed me to express myself in a new way. And this was really exciting because I felt like I was cheating. I was almost like I was learning a really valuable skill in data that just so also happened to be super interesting, like building visualizations like this about my own, travels through London. If I go back to my profile, doing it with music, doing it with a whole bunch of different themes. It was just a recurring theme and something that I really, really felt passionate about. And I really thoroughly enjoyed it. I really thoroughly enjoyed the problem-solving challenges. This is the music listening habits. And I remember this viz. It was featured on the Last.fm website at the time. It's so bad. I can't believe it even works. But yeah, this was built with, let's see, I haven't actually updated it since it was updated. So 2014 was the first time it was published. So nearly a decade ago. Version 1, been viewed 18,000 times, and I think I updated it in 2023 because there was something with public that was changing that meant you had to go in and republish anything you wanted to keep. Nonetheless, I learned how to work with music, I learned how to work with Last.fm, and I learned APIs. And so the thread here is that I've always been able to string this journey of learning, but it's always been paired with a passion for something else. So in this case, it was a passion for understanding myself, understanding the world, understand how to work with data. I kind of weaved all of these things into one place. And if I'm honest, I felt like Tableau was one of the tools that allowed me to also explore this concept of design in data. So data visualization, infographics. And you can see that I've followed this thread through a lot of my visualizations. Like when I took the music listening thing to the next level, I really enjoyed this specific page. I was really proud of this. I actually printed this out and set it up as a PDF, and I put it out, and I can do that again, but I was really proud of this because what this showed me for the first time is, hey, these are my top 25 artists, and this is what their music looks like if you take their attributes and you find an average for their attributes. So the red line is the average for that artist. And you can see that different artists had really distinct shapes. Obviously they had songs that were outliers, but those were also really easy to see. But I was really proud of being able to visualize music in this way. And again, figuring this out in Alteryx, in Tableau, was in itself a journey. I learned so much about modeling data, and it wasn't modeling data through SQL. I was doing it all through Alteryx, and visually SQL was a skill that I guess I didn't really need at the time, but nonetheless I was pairing these two things. And maybe even as I talk, you can see that the passion for understanding these things and the way they work, and just using them as a vehicle to learn the tool better, to then be able to go and use them in a consulting context, was something that I really thoroughly enjoyed. And so I've always said that, look, people's passion for learning always comes from not just the passion for learning, but also comes from a passion of wanting to understand the way something works, wanting to sort of understand how things come together. So when we work in the world of data, and when people say they have a passion for working with data, what they really mean is they have a passion for understanding the things that they're analyzing, understanding the things that they're trying to explore. And throughout my time with Tableau, I've thoroughly enjoyed it. I really thoroughly enjoyed it. And it's been really, really exciting. However, that is a path that I started a long, long time ago. So if we actually go back now to the visit of the day here, let's go all the way back to, we'll go to this visualization. When we go back here, what is super interesting is I'm talking about something that I did now over a decade ago. I started learning Tableau over a decade ago. It's now my 12th or 13th year using Tableau. And if I look at this journey, I actually draw a lot of parallels. Number one, I didn't achieve anywhere near as much of this in the same amount of time, but I think there's a couple of good reasons. Content today is much more readily available than it was back then. Back then, you had to go to a training in person. You had to go to maybe a paid course by Tableau to learn the product. Maybe you had to go through certifications. All of that was just consumed and managed in different ways. And blogs have always existed back then, but even then, there were fewer people writing blogs. The usual names and suspects have always been in the community. So Andy Kriebel, Craig Bloodworth, many people have always been in the community contributing to that sort of community of knowledge, let's say. But when you look at sort of this visualization, you see lots of journey in terms of people's understanding, when they discovered certain things, when they discovered certain channels, when they hit a milestone, their visit of the day. I've had 2 visit of the days myself, so I very much resonate with this journey, the highs and the lows, and I find it super interesting that this visualization exists. But here's the thing, and this is the fundamental thing. I think Tableau's done something super exciting in that whole entire time, in 12 years. And this is really coming to where, I have an issue, which is for 12 years, Tableau have managed to create a product that has continued to innovate and keep me interested in working with data in lots of different contexts, to the point where today I will say to you that, one of my favorite products in Tableau, and it doesn't matter what anyone says to me here, like I'll keep drumming this beat home because I really do mean this, and I'm happy to go toe-to-toe with anyone who doesn't agree. Tableau Prep is single-handedly one of the best experiences working with data anywhere on this planet. And the reason that is because you can tell that the team that designed it really thought about 2 things. Number one, how do you make it easy to understand what you're doing with your data? Number 2, how do you show people what they're doing with their data? Now, those 2 things aren't the same thing. Understanding what you're about to do and then seeing what you have done are 2 completely different things. And actually, that's one of the abstract things with working with Tableau, being able to visualize what you're trying to achieve, then going ahead and doing it and being able to sort of plan out that method of work. That in itself, to get to that level of understanding of the product, is in itself something that takes maybe 2, 3, 4 years of working with the product day to day to be able to get a problem and know how you're going to get to the path. That kind of lends itself really well to consulting if you're thinking of doing something like that, because that's exactly what consultants do. They guide clients from where they are to where they need to be. But the thing is, since Tableau Prep, the innovation and the direction that I think lots of Tableau parts have gone into, by parts I mean the different product suites, they've really exploded. They've gone in lots of different directions. And the critical thing that I found with them is that they have introduced new ideas and new concepts, some of which I love. The data model, absolutely love that. It's completely changed the way I work with data. And if you haven't yet seen it, go ahead and check out my video about the data model with Kirk Monroe. It's a masterclass. 5,000 people have watched it. I've heard lots of great feedback about how people are starting to get it. And if you look at the comments, you'll see people watching the video and then coming back a month later and saying, I get it now, right? So that's exactly what that video is for. There are great pieces of innovation like that today. And what they do is they enable you to go back to a solution maybe you built 3 years ago and get re-excited about it. But the really difficult thing I found, and this is where I've just come to sort of terms with this, and I've just been very honest with myself, is that the best bits of Tableau that I enjoy using the most have built on the patterns of the last few years. And I think going forward, that maybe can't be the case. Of course, things are going to change in analytics. Trends are going to come and go. But I've always felt that Tableau's managed to evolve the product, keep it moving with the times, whilst also holding on to its heritage and grasping this thing that I really find hard to explain, especially to Salesforce generally when I communicate with them, that it's really clear to me that sometimes the product decisions lack what I call the intuition of the product. And by that I mean, it's a really simple one. if I ask anyone who's been using Tableau for 2 years, what happens when you double click? They expect Tableau to automatically add something to the canvas. They expect Tableau to automatically open up a menu. There's just some behaviors that you come used to. When I drag and drop onto the marks pane, I expect a certain behavior. When I double click in an empty space and it's somewhere where I can write a calculation, I expect it to open up the calculation window. These are all subtle but very small cues that are learned behavior. They're learned expectations. And what I've realized in the last few months is that there's just so many of those that they're just muscle memory. They're in the back of my hand. They're in my mind. When I think of how to explore data, I try it in other tools and I realize those features don't exist. I'm evaluating Sigma and I'm using Sigma on a daily basis at the moment, and I'm finding it painful because I'm looking for these things that have become productivity gains in Tableau, but I'm not finding them. Same thing in Power BI as well. So because the product lacks all what I would call these intuitive things, it lacks sort of this intuition of the heritage of Tableau, I'm finding myself having to relearn a product I thought I knew for the last decade. And that's not a bad thing, because of course things change. And I've been asked this question, hey Tim, if you were going to move Tableau into the future, what are the bits you would keep? And I find this question really interesting, but I also find it truthfully really irritating. I find it interesting because that is actually a really good question. What would I bring? What would I leave behind, right? But I find it irritating because I never thought that was on the table, right? And I never thought that was the offer. I always thought there was a way to build on the Tableau we have today and still keep innovating the product forward. Now, I'm not a industry expert. I'm a consultant, but I'm not an industry expert. I don't know what's happening in all analytics tools in the world. I don't sit on the C-suite of any analytics product to be able to see the kind of headwinds and challenges that they're anticipating they're going to have to deal with. And let's be clear, Salesforce, Power BI, Microsoft, they're all positioning themselves to be able to deal with things that challenge their revenue. So I totally get that there are decisions that, kind of tie your hands and mean that you have to go in a certain direction. But that said, when I look at Tableau Next, I see a product that just has so much in it that I just don't have any passion to learn. It doesn't matter how good it is. I'm just not excited to learn it. And that's because of two things. I feel like I've learned Tableau already. It's not something I want to relearn. So if you put it in front of me, although I will go and learn it, and I will, although I will go and play with it, and I will, and you'll see the videos here on this channel, that passion, that energy, that excitement, what I showed you earlier, that when you saw my face as explaining all those other things, that just won't be there. And when that's not there, then Tableau is just like any other tool. It's just like Power BI, just like Sigma. The same frustrations that I've just explained to you that are lacking in those tools from Tableau. When those things that I look forward to, making my life easier aren't there, then it just becomes another tool. And when it's just another tool, I might as well evaluate everything else. I might as well take a look at everything else that's available, because hey, I'll tell you this, the analytics space is very, very crowded. There are lots of great competitors. If I just sort of rattle off a few, if I go to Count, I'll just keep typing here on the screen and just go to their homepage. Okay, Count is another approach to using data within a team. Let's go to another one, Hex.tech. I've actually got a video to go through this platform planned very soon. I'll come onto that towards the end. Again, another great tool. Let's do this again. Let's go to Sigma Analytics. You can see I actually have quite a few bookmarks on Sigma because I'm learning it. Good old Click is still sponsoring. Poor Click. Let's just open all these tabs just so you can see the craziness. Tableau sponsoring ahead of Sigma. Wow, it's getting competitive. You can really tell who's interested in the Tableau customers. So there you go. There's Sigma. Sorry, your Sigma alternative for modern BI. Okay. Wow, that's a really ThoughtSpot. Come on, guys, that's really cheap. Your Sigma alternative for modern BI. That is really cheeky to buy an ad spot on the term. Okay, But no, smart move. Sigma themselves, okay, AI apps and so on and so forth. Like the space is just crazy full of perspectives. That's not even including Power BI, business subjects, Click, all these things that are incumbents in the space that are still there. And of course, Salesforce itself with Einstein Analytics, or the people there sort of deprecating from that. It's a super busy space. But I'll say this, the minute I lose passion for anything, I might as well evaluate something else. Why? Because I might as well go and see if something else strikes that passion for me or strikes that energy. And so for me as a consultant, I'm using what my clients are using, and my clients are using a mixture of tools. Sigma is one of them. Alteryx, good old Alteryx. I love to hate, but I love the product. People are still using that. Snowflake, Databricks. I use a lot of Snowflake. Not that it's in the same league as Tableau, but nonetheless, it's all there. So I think I'm really laboring this point now, and you're kind of getting it. I have to be really honest with myself and say, hey, like if you see me teaching Tableau, if you see me learning Tableau, I think I have to be honest with you as an audience and say that just understand that when I'm doing Tableau Core, I'm super excited. I'm really passionate about the things that I see there. But when I'm doing Tableau Next, and I'm feeling like I'm having to relearn the tool, it's a very different type of energy. And I think you'll see it in the content that I make, definitely. But I feel like I have to be upfront about that, and I have to be genuine about that, because if you see it, then and you don't buy it, then of course you're going to say something. It's not going to come across so well. And so it also changes my approach to how I make content, because if I'm not passionate about something, how do I get around that problem? I need to make interesting videos. I think I want to still help people learn Tableau. I still have a passion for that. So my approach is different. There's less to cover on the Tableau space, obviously, that's new, if that makes sense. So my opportunity is to go back and redo a bunch of videos that I've done that are still helping people every single day improve those. Bring those up to date, bring those up to speed with the modern platform. There's a bunch of stuff that I've missed over the years that I think I can now make content on. Take the masterclass approach. Go out and do these really big pieces of content. Frankly, many other people have done this exact approach, especially in the data space. You've got lots of data creators that have taken the easy bit of, explaining Tableau and have done a really good job at that. And they've, gone and got massive audiences and crowds. But as soon as you dig into the depth of those things, there's not much there. So I think I can add depth. I can add way more experience as a consultant, as a visionary, as an ambassador than I think anyone else can. But I also want to bring people and be the source for people to continue to understand what Tableau is becoming as well as what it was. And so that's going to continue to be a challenge. Now, there's three really simple ways. Well, there's a simple way to solve this problem. And so how do I solve this? Now, YouTube absolutely hates confusing the algorithm. Like if I start making Tableau Next content and people don't click on it, it's absolutely going to tank my channel. So this is a genuine problem. If I start making videos about other analytics tools and I do it on my Tableau channel, it's also going to tank the channel. So really there's only one solution, and that is to make 3 separate channels. So this channel will stay Tableau Tim. Simple as that. A new channel, probably be titled something less Tableau, more Tim. And that will be the data channel. That's where I'll talk about every other tool other than Tableau, right? Because it's really coming from my perspective. I'm Tableau Tim, so everything else I talk about can go on that channel. Alteryx, Sigma, Count, Hex, all of those can go over there. And I think it's good because you as an audience, if you're still following Tableau, can do that. But you have the choice to choose to go and follow something else and have that in your feed if you'd like it to. And I can also meet new audiences in that realm as well. Then the very final one is this Tableau Next piece. And I think this is the right thing to do. And that is to create a purpose-built channel just for Tableau Next. And I'll call it Tableau Next with Tim. And that's it. That's going to be my way of solving this. This way I keep the entities separate. And actually each channel has to do its own bidding has to fight for its own interest, and it has to gain its own audience. And obviously I'll cross link and cross share between them. That is easy to do. I can even do collaborations. That's something that's now easy to do. So I can do something on the Tableau Next channel in collaboration with Tableau Tim, and you'll be able to see that, and it's going to be a really good way of solving that problem. That's something that's only become possible in the last month, which is why I'm doing it now rather than trying to break things up. So I hope that's been a good explainer for that. Now, this whole time we touched on Tableau Public, and another perspective I touched on in the last video was I don't think Tableau Public is helping the Tableau brand. Why? Tune in tomorrow to find out more.